relationships with others. So it may be that you have one of your deep-seated ideas that you may have about yourself is, look, I base everything upon what I have learned. But what my culture is, that is correct. There's nothing which can supersede that. And we see that very often. So people behave in particular ways, and then you ask them, well, why are you doing what you're doing? And they simply say, well, our forefathers, our fathers, our grandparents, it has always been like that. So it's like, let's say, the situation with masajids in this country and all over the Caribbean, where these different walls are put up between men and women. And if you ask most people, well, why it is that these things are there, well, they said they've always been there. And nobody has complained about it. So not because they've always been there and nobody has complained about it, does it mean that it's the right thing. You need to go back. And that's a paradigm that they have. To be able to change that, you need to be able to change their mindset and you be able to change their paradigm in terms of the thinking, for there to be a shift. Now, Steve Covey talks about 7 habits. And we're going to go through quickly, inshallah, on these 7 habits. And he says that we are what we do. Okay, we are what we do. And we know that, we saw that yesterday, we are the sum total of our habits. And excellence, right? There is not an act, but a habit. To be able to achieve excellence in anything that you do, it is a habit. It is born out of habit. People who do well in their studies do it well because it is a habit. They know if whatever it is, if they get an A now, they can almost predict that in the next exam, they will also get an E. If they get a promotion now, they can predict that they will get a promotion in the next year. Do you know why? Because it's the habits that they have, which has led to their A in the first instance, will lead them to the same in the next. Because they have behavioral patterns which help produce this type of result. So he puts habits in the middle of this Venn diagram. And then he breaks them down into 3 sets. So among these 7 habits, these are the 3 core areas that you need to develop. The first is that of knowledge. The second is that of skills. And the third is that of desire. Knowledge, skills, and desire. And if you think about what we are doing in this particular program, why we are doing what we are doing, it's exactly that. It's about being able to provide us with knowledge, with a base, with a foundation, with understanding our basic sources. So that's important. And then to be able to provide the skills. How can we apply this knowledge to our society, to our environment, to our lives? And then further to that is a desire. In other words, you want to. You see, some people can come to a course or an event. And in coming to that course and event, their focus might well be that of knowledge. They want to acquire knowledge. But they can listen to a talk. They can listen to a remarkable talk, let's say on Seerah, on the Quran, on Hadith, or what have you. But if the trainer is not careful and just gives them knowledge without applications or without the skills which comes along with it, then the knowledge which they have will be of little value. Little value. But they may well get the knowledge and the skills. But if they do not have the desire and the will, you will find that the knowledge and the skills which they have will not bring the desired result. Because within them there is no will. There is no will to do anything else. And it is the same with this program. You know, if there is no will, there is no desire within your heart, hold on. You know, I've been sitting here, I've been interacting, I've been in discussion for the last 3, and it's going to be 5 days soon. Tomorrow will be the last day. And I've gotten all of these things that we've spoken about. But if there is no desire in your heart to want to change, to want to use what you have for the betterment of yourself and for the betterment of the wider society, it will come to naught. Yeah.
think knowledge here, Islamically, you could say Quran, skills, Sunnah, how to do it. And the desire is tazkiyah. You could have someone with the knowledge and the skills, but because he's not tazkiyah, again, it's just repetitive action. So I think these three also have a parallel in the Quran.
Now. Okay. So let's look at the 7 habits now. So the 7 habits, these are the 7 habits. And we're going to go through them, inshallah. So the first one he talks about, so these are the 7 habits. Again, it's about, you can break the 7 habits down. So we broke the 7 habits down into 3 things before. What were they? They were knowledge, skills, and desire. 3. But another way that you can look at those 7 habits is like this. You're talking about dependence. It's about focusing upon yourself. Then you're talking about you are dependent on someone else. You're dependent on someone else. Then from becoming dependent on someone else, you move to a higher level. There is a paradigm shift. And that paradigm shift leads you to becoming independent. And then beyond becoming independent, you're talking about interdependence. Okay? So some people, they become independent. They say, look, they empower themselves with knowledge and empower themselves with skills, and they feel that they don't sense the need to be able to engage with anyone else. So they are independent. They no longer have to refer to something else. But having said that, beyond becoming independent is to realize that you have to become interdependent. In other words, as much as you have become independent, suddenly you realize that I can't do it all myself. To be able to achieve what I want to achieve, I have to begin to work with others. And work with people, even though we might have differences, even though that we might hold our hands in a different way in the mosque, we might dress differently, we might think differently. But can we come together and talk about things which that we can agree on? And this is where we can work with people. So if you think about the whole notion of interfaith dialogue, and some of you I'm sure would have been engaged in interfaith dialogue. When interfaith dialogue first started, it was simply about people saying, well, stand up and say, well, this is what I believe. You know, I'm a Muslim and these are the things that Islam teaches me. And a Hindu guy would stand up and say, well, I'm a Hindu and this is what my God is and this is what I believe. And the Christian guy will do the same thing, and the Jew will do the same thing. Everybody all say that this is what we believe. They have a meal and off they go. And that's how interfaith dialogue started, and that was the starting point. Now there is a sense of realization that interfaith dialogue has to move beyond that. It has to move to the phase where we're moving into interfaith work. And in interfaith work, we are looking at common causes. Instead of talking about what our faith is, and Islam means five pillars and that type of thing, what we do, inshallah, everybody will get all of the slides, okay? All of the slides will be yours, so don't worry about the slides. What interfaith work has now come down to is to say, look, let's look at the environment. What does the Christian faith say about preserving our environment? What you guys, the Jews, say? What you guys, the Hindus, say? What you guys, the Muslims, say about preserving the environment? So they all give, and then all is, hold on, we all agree on the same thing. What do you all guys say about crime? Oh, we don't want crime. All of us say crime is bad. All right. Well, let's go back. Let's see what can we do? How can we bring all of the resources that we have such that we can address the problem? So it becomes something which is action-oriented. So you can work now hand in hand, maintain your own faith, hand in hand with someone else, but work on a common cause without having to spend lengthy time disputing with others. Sure, your differences will be there, but on this common cause we can agree upon. And as you begin to interact now with people at that level, now you begin to be able to have something that can connect you. You can talk about. Because if you start opening a discussion with someone and saying, well, look, you know, Islam does not believe that Jesus is Son of God. The Trinity, and all Christians are bound for the hellfire. That is going to close the avenues for dialogue and for discussion. There will be no openness. People will become more entrenched in their own beliefs. And this is part of the reason why, Brother Hassan mentioned it yesterday, why interfaith dialogue and debates have not done as well as they should. We all passed, some of us would have remembered the days of Ahmadiyyat. And Ahmadiyyat, and Muslims, in fact, if you looked at the audiences that attended those events with Ahmadiyyat, the vast majority were Muslims. And then a small percentage of those that were there were Christians. But the Christians that were there were not Christians who were willing to say, well, look, what does God have to say? I'm open. He wants to discuss something or dialogue something. It all had to do with a group of people who were well entrenched in their own beliefs, and they wanted to argue, or they wanted to throw insults across each other. So much so that if you listen to some of the dialogue, you would find a lot of four-letter words flying between the Muslims and the Christians, and the Muslims were also using the same language like they were using. It was very sad. So let's look at the first three habits. So the first three habits he describes as being the private victories. Habit number one. So habit number one, he says about being proactive. Be proactive. In everything that you do, be proactive.